The bread basket was already on the table when Thomas started. He hadn't even unfolded his napkin yet. "Just order something simple, Harold," he said, not looking up from the menu. "We're not here all night." I nodded. I didn't respond. I'd learned, over 71 years, that silence is not surrender. Sometimes silence is a man standing very still while the tide comes in around the person next to him. My name is Harold Merritt. My daughter, Carol, is sitting across from me. She's trying to smooth things over the way she always does, touching Thomas's arm, laughing at things that aren't funny, making herself smaller so the room feels bigger for him. It breaks my heart every single time. But that's her marriage, not mine, and she's not ready to hear what I think about it. Thomas is 43. He sells commercial real estate. He drives a car that costs more than my first restaurant did, and he makes sure you know it inside of 6 minutes. He's been my son-in-law for 3 years. In those 3 years, he has never once asked me a single question about my life. Not one. He has, however, told me plenty about his. I was a chef. Not the kind you see on television, yelling and throwing pans. The other kind. The quiet kind. 31 years behind a professional range. 2 restaurants, one in New Orleans, one outside of Nashville. A James Beard nomination in 2003 that I never talk about because I didn't win, and that's just the truth. I trained under a man named Gerald Fontenot in Louisiana, who learned from people who invented American Southern cuisine as we know it. I am not saying this to brag. I am saying it so you understand what Thomas did not know, sitting across from me that night, scanning the menu like a man who has never truly tasted anything. He chose the restaurant. That part matters. He chose it because it was expensive, and because he wanted Carol to see him spend money. It's called Hargrove's. It opened 8 years ago. The head chef, a young man named David Park, trained at the Culinary Institute, and then spent 2 years in New Orleans before coming to Nashville. I know this because David Park spent those 2 New Orleans years in my kitchen. I didn't know we were coming here until we pulled up. I said nothing. The waiter came to the table. Young man, early 30s, dark jacket, the quiet efficiency of someone who genuinely loves the work. He looked at Thomas first, the way you look at whoever is performing authority at the table. Then his eyes moved to me, and they stopped. He blinked once. "I'm sorry," he said, and his voice had shifted into something careful and genuine. Are you Chef Merritt?" Thomas looked up from the menu. I said, "I am. Though I've been retired a few years now." The waiter, his name tag said Marcus, actually put his hand to his chest. "I stage trained in New Orleans. I heard your name every single day. I can't believe I'm sorry, I don't mean to make this weird. You're not making it weird," I told him. "Thank you." I looked at Thomas. His expression was doing something complicated. The menu was still in his hands, but he wasn't reading it anymore. Marcus excused himself. 2 minutes later he was back, not alone. The sommelier was with him. A woman named Grace, who introduced herself, and then told me that the Bordeaux I'd recommended to a mutual colleague 3 years ago had become her favorite wine to pour. I had no memory of the conversation, but I believed her. I thanked her. She left a bottle at the table with the compliments of the house. Thomas said nothing. Carol was very still. Then the kitchen door opened. David Park came out in his chef's whites, which chefs almost never do mid-service. It means leaving everything, and everything falls apart when you leave it. He crossed the dining room. 3 tables of people looked up. He came straight to ours. "Chef Merritt." He put out his hand and I shook it. "Marcus just told me. I'm sorry to interrupt your dinner. I just had to come out. This is your place?" I said. "Yes, sir. 2 years now." He was beaming. "I think about New Orleans every single day. I think about what you told me about seasoning, that the last taste should always be an echo of the first. I use that. I use it every service." I remembered saying that. I said it to every cook who came through. We talked for maybe 4 minutes. He went back to his kitchen. Before the night was over, the kitchen had sent out 3 courses we hadn't ordered and hadn't been charged for. Marcus refilled our water like we were the only table in the room. Thomas ate quietly. The performance was over. On the drive home, he asked, for the first time in 3 years, where I had worked before I retired. I told him. All of it. Calmly. Without a single sharp edge in my voice. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "You never mentioned any of that." "You never asked?" I said. And I looked out the window at the city going by, and I felt something I can only describe as clean. Not victory. Not revenge exactly. Just the feeling of a thing being corrected. Of a man seeing, clearly, what he had failed to see. And of a dinner being thoroughly, quietly, perfectly enjoyed. Here is what I know after 71 years. The people who dismiss you without learning your name are always the most shocked when the room already knows it. You never have to announce yourself. Do the work. Live the life. And let the room do the talking.